People do irrational things when they're in love, often letting emotions dictate their actions instead of relying on logic and reason. But if you were to compile a list of the wildest things someone has done for love, murder probably wouldn't make the cut. However, the case we're delving into today redefines the word crazy, though whether it involves love is debatable. After all, no one in their right mind would resort to murder just to keep someone from leaving. Zuzu Verk, a 21-year-old junior at Sulros State University, was an adventurous spirit and a passionate lover of nature and wildlife. Her zest for life and willingness to try new things defined her vibrant personality. So when her parents repeatedly tried to reach her and were met with silence, and when Zuzu missed an important exam, it raised red flags. Where could Zuzu be? Was she hurt? In danger? It seemed impossible for her to vanish without a trace. The story of Zuzu Verk is one of mystery and heartbreak. With each detail that came to light, the situation grew more devastating, confirming the worst fears of those who loved her. I post new true crime documentaries every week. So, if you enjoy unraveling these cases, be sure to hit that subscribe button. It's completely free and ensures you never miss a video. Zuzu Renee Verk was born on April 22, 1995, to Lori and Glenn Verk in Keller, Texas. She had a brother, Miles, and the family was incredibly close, built on a foundation of love and trust. Miles described Zuzu as an absolute joy to be around, calling her the best sister anyone could ask for. Although I never met Zuzu, her photos paint a picture of someone brimming with life. Her infectious grin is ever present. The story behind Zuzu's name is just as charming as she was. Her father, Glenn, was inspired by Zuzu Bailey, a character from the 1946 Christmas classic, It's a Wonderful Life. Both Lori and Glenn adored the film, and they decided long before having children that if they ever had a daughter, they'd name her Zuzu. In 1994, Lori discovered she was pregnant, and 9 months later, they welcomed their baby girl, staying true to their promise. The name often piqued people's curiosity, so much so that Zuzu joked with her dad about needing an informational card to explain its origin. After graduating from Timber Creek High School, Zuzu set her sights on Sulros State University in Alpine, Texas. With its stunning landscapes and countless stargazing spots, Alpine was as magical as Zuzu herself. She fell in love with the idea of living there. At the university, Zuzu was studying conservation biology, a field that reflected her deep connection to nature. At the time of her disappearance, she was excelling academically, having made the dean's list and had recently applied to transfer to Texas A&M University for her senior year. Her choice of conservation biology wasn't random. It was a path that perfectly aligned with Zuzu's love for the natural world. Zuzu had a deep passion for nature and was committed to preserving its beauty, wildlife, and unique creations. She embodied ambition, setting goals and making it her mission to achieve them, no matter the challenges. This resilience was one of her most admirable traits. If a goal was worth the risk, Zuzu would tackle it with unwavering determination and a bright smile. Her magnetic personality eventually drew the attention of a young man named Robert Fabian. 4 years older than Zuzu, Robert had a carefree attitude and an active social life that Zuzu found charming. According to her brother Miles, Robert was smitten with Zuzu, and the two seemed to get along well. However, Zuzu's mother, Lori, didn't share this positive view. Lori saw Robert as arrogant, loud, and selfish, and she was vocal about her dislike for him. Still, Zuzu was an adult, capable of making her own decisions, so Laurie could only watch from the sidelines. One thing was clear to Laurie: she never liked Robert, feeling he didn't treat her daughter with the respect she deserved. Miles also had his doubts about Robert, viewing him as manipulative and overly controlling. He suspected that Robert didn't want Zuzu to leave Alpine, despite her clear ambitions. At the time, Zuzu was eagerly awaiting an acceptance letter from Texas A&M University, where she planned to transfer to complete her degree. After graduation, she dreamed of moving to Japan to explore her love for travel. However, Robert wasn't on board with her plans. While he knew how much Zuzu wanted to go to Japan, he didn't share her enthusiasm and didn't want to join her. At the same time, he was unwilling to break off their relationship, leading to a dynamic many described as on again, off again. Zuzu confided in her mother about her feelings, admitting that she didn't see Robert as someone she could spend the rest of her life with. From the start, she knew their relationship wasn't built to last. Laurie recalled Zuzu describing it as a convenient arrangement rather than a lifelong commitment. Tragically, Zuzu could never have imagined that this so-called convenient relationship would end up being her last. Laurie last spoke with Zuzu on October 10th, 2016. They caught up on life, and Zuzu shared her plans to finally tell Robert that she was transferring to Texas A&M, which would mark the end of their relationship. Zuzu also mentioned that Robert had planned to take her to a movie on October 11th. Laurie could never have imagined this would be the last time she'd hear her daughter's voice. When several days passed without any word from Zuzu, Laurie and Glenn grew increasingly concerned. It was completely out of character for Zuzu not to return their calls or messages. Staying in touch with her parents was a priority for her, so the silence was deeply alarming. In her desperation, Laurie even sent a text to Zuzu that read, "Please tell us you're alive." Laurie reached out to Robert, who claimed he hadn't seen Zuzu that day and was giving her space. Eventually, Robert contacted the authorities to request a wellness check at Zuzu's residence. On October 14th, Zuzu was officially reported missing. Robert was quickly brought in for questioning, as he was likely the last person to see Zuzu. He admitted to having planned a romantic dinner with her at his apartment on October 11th. According to Robert, the evening started off well, but took a turn when he casually mentioned his ex-girlfriend, which upset Zuzu. He claimed she left his apartment around 2 or 3 a.m. Robert said he tried calling her afterward, but decided to give her space when she didn't respond. A massive search effort was launched for Zuzu, covering both land and air. The operation extended as far as Mexico, with hundreds of volunteers on foot and horseback scouring 400 miles. Authorities reviewed countless hours of CCTV footage, while missing posters of Zuzu were plastered across towns on walls, poles, and shop windows. A $100,000 reward, funded through donations and various agencies, was offered for any information leading to Zuzu's return. Despite these efforts, hope dimmed when police announced they had identified a suspect. This revelation shattered the community's optimism that Zuzu might be found safe and brought a grim new focus to the case. As the investigation progressed, evidence began to point squarely at Zuzu's on-again, off-again boyfriend, Robert Fabian. Investigators zeroed in on him thanks to a critical tip from Robert's downstairs neighbor, John Franco, who had observed something unusual on the night of Zuzu's last known whereabouts. Among the many leads pouring in, this particular account stood out and became a turning point in the investigation. When police visited Robert's residence, they began questioning those familiar with him. His downstairs neighbor, John Franco, provided intriguing details that Robert had omitted. According to John, he witnessed Zuzu arriving in her car and entering Robert's apartment. He heard normal sounds of conversation, laughter, and the clinking of dishes, indicating dinner preparations. However, John distinctly recalled hearing a loud "shut up" after dinner, which stuck in his memory. Later, he saw Robert leaving his apartment alone at 4 a.m., with Zuzu's car still parked outside. John also recalled hearing arguments and unusual noises from upstairs, but didn't think much of it at the time. Armed with this information, investigators called Robert in for another interview, during which his story evolved. He now claimed that following an argument about his ex-girlfriend, he left for a drive to Dairy Queen to cool off. Upon his return, Zuzu was still present, but left shortly afterward. This inconsistency raised suspicions among the detectives, who made the decision to search Robert's apartment with his consent. Inside, they discovered troubling evidence: a mattress pad, various clothes, and sheets stained with bleach. The bed itself was completely bare, devoid of sheets or pillowcases, which struck investigators as highly unusual. Adding to their suspicions, detectives noted that Robert referred to Zuzu in the past tense during their interactions. These revelations solidified Robert as the primary suspect in Zuzu's disappearance, prompting fears that her case might involve something far more sinister. Yet Robert wasn't the sole focus of suspicion. Another figure emerged: Robert's close friend, Chris Estrada. Chris became implicated when an interview he gave on Crime Watch Daily on December 6, 2016, raised eyebrows. His demeanor was tense and forced, with stiff body language and awkward smiles throughout. Chris and Robert had been friends since high school, maintaining regular contact. When investigators scrutinized Robert's phone records, they discovered a call placed to Chris at 3:15 a.m. on October 12th. During questioning, Chris disclosed that Robert had requested his credit card the previous day, claiming he had forgotten his own at home. Robert supposedly needed it to purchase plastic painter's drop cloths from a dollar store for a table painting project. This explanation raised skepticism among investigators, questioning why such a task required a late-night urgency. In essence, whether Robert possessed an exceptionally tight schedule or Chris demonstrated extraordinary friendship by facilitating a middle-of-the-night table painting endeavor remained a puzzling aspect of the investigation. It's safe to say the detectives didn't buy Robert's story at all. Adding to their doubts, a friend of his named Brittany came forward with her own account. She stated that on October 13th, at around midnight, Chris showed up at her apartment looking extremely edgy and nervous, as if he'd just witnessed something horrific. When Brittany asked him what was wrong, Chris reportedly replied, "I don't want to get you involved." Also, what was with Chris showing up at odd hours of the night? Despite these revelations, the case seemed to be hitting a dead end. There was only circumstantial evidence, and while Robert remained the prime suspect, no concrete clues emerged to push the investigation forward. To make matters worse, Chris stuck to his bizarre tale of helping his best friend paint a table at 3 a.m., offering little to no assistance to the investigation. The Verk family held multiple press conferences, desperately hoping for any leads about Zuzu's whereabouts. They even publicly pleaded with Robert to cooperate with investigators, urging him to help uncover what had happened. But as the weeks turned into months, hope dwindled. After 3 long months with no progress, it seemed Zuzu's case might remain an unsolved tragedy, until a discovery changed everything, shattering any remaining hope of finding her alive. On February 3rd, 2017, exactly 3 months after Zuzu's disappearance, a Border Patrol agent named Jared Maynard noticed something unusual in a remote area of Brewster County near Alpine. As he approached a disturbed patch of dirt in a ditch, he spotted pieces of plastic sticking out, along with a single blue sock and some black fabric. Realizing the potential significance, he alerted authorities immediately. When investigators arrived and excavated the area, they uncovered a body wrapped in a plastic painter's drop cloth, buried in a shallow grave. The remains were tested and identified as 21-year-old Zuzu Verk. The discovery devastated Zuzu's family. Their daughter, Miles's beloved sister, a young woman with dreams of exploring the world and living life to its fullest, had been taken from them in the most horrific way. The weight of the news crushed everyone who loved her. Amid their grief, the Verk family sought justice, and fortunately, the investigators already had their prime suspect. The plastic painter's cloth used to wrap Zuzu's body matched the one Robert had purchased from Dollar General. This evidence confirmed what the police had suspected. Robert not only ended Zuzu's life, but also attempted to dispose of her body and cover his tracks. And whether or not he admitted it, it was clear his best friend Chris had played a role in the crime. Within 24 hours of recovering Zuzu's body and piecing together the evidence, Robert Fabian was arrested on charges of tampering with evidence and concealing a body. 2 days later, his best friend Chris Estrada was apprehended in Phoenix, Arizona, on the same charges. However, Robert's charges were soon escalated to murder. In April 2018, Chris pleaded no contest and agreed to testify against Robert during his trial. Robert, however, maintained his innocence and pleaded not guilty. His attorney argued that he was being wrongfully accused of murder, pointing out that neither Robert's fingerprints nor DNA were found at the crime scene. Robert claimed that the argument with Zuzu had been purely verbal and never escalated into violence. A co-worker of Robert's testified during the trial, describing him as a regular guy before Zuzu's disappearance. However, after she went missing, he began behaving oddly, showing an unusual interest in the case and constantly inquiring about the police's progress behavior that struck many as suspicious. On the third day of the trial, Chris took the stand, delivering a damning confession. He revealed that Robert had called him late at night, claiming it was a matter of life or death. According to Chris, Robert admitted that the dinner with Zuzu had gone smoothly at first, but things later turned physical. The situation escalated to the point where Robert strangled Zuzu, and when she began hyperventilating and eventually stopped breathing, he realized he had killed her. The attack reportedly occurred in the bedroom, and Robert allegedly tried to perform CPR on Zuzu, but it was too late. Chris described Robert as going into survival mode, focused on avoiding detection. However, the notion that this was an accident was hard to believe. Strangulation is a deliberate act that takes several minutes, not something that happens unintentionally. Chris testified that Robert had called him multiple times, at least a dozen, begging for help in disposing of Zuzu's body. At one point, Robert even visited Chris's house in Alpine, pleading for assistance. Chris claimed he refused to help and stated that Robert begged him not to turn him in. Chris's actions raised significant questions. Although he may not have directly participated in Zuzu's death, he withheld critical information that could have expedited the investigation and spared Zuzu's family months of anguish and uncertainty. While his failure to act was deeply troubling, it's worth noting that Chris may have been caught in a difficult and terrifying situation. He witnessed the immense pain Zuzu's family endured, but to help them find closure, he would have had to betray his best friend. It was an agonizing predicament, yet it doesn't absolve him from not doing the right thing. During the trial, a surprising testimony came from Robert's former cellmate, Roy Roman, at Brewster County Jail. Roy claimed he overheard Robert admit to killing Zuzu because she had discovered a bisexual relationship between Robert and Chris. Allegedly, Zuzu had threatened to expose the secret, leaving Robert feeling he had no choice but to silence her permanently. Roy added that Robert appeared remorseful, breaking down in his cell and lamenting, "I didn't mean to do this." Ultimately, after 5 hours of jury deliberation on May 8, 2019, the verdict was reached. Robert Fabian was found guilty on all counts and sentenced to life in prison, with an additional 29 years for evidence tampering. Chris Estrada received a 42-month prison sentence, along with $317 in court costs for tampering with evidence. He also received an extra year and another $317 in costs for evading charges. Following the sentencing, Zuzu's family shared statements tinged with both grief and relief. Grief because they would never see Zuzu again, and relief because the man responsible for her death was finally held accountable. Yet lingering questions haunt everyone. Why? What drove Robert to take Zuzu's life? Was it simply because she ended their relationship? Or was the alleged revelation about Robert and Chris the true motive? These questions remain unanswered, and only Robert and Zuzu truly know what transpired on October 11th, the night everything unraveled. For Zuzu's family, the pain is unending. Adding to their heartbreak was a letter they received from Texas A&M University shortly after Zuzu disappeared. She had been accepted her dream come true, but she wasn't alive to celebrate the achievement. Her parents are left grappling with the cruel reality that she will never graduate, pursue her ambitions, or live the life she dreamed of. To honor her memory, Sul Ross State University, Zuzu's college of choice, renamed its amphitheater Zuzu's Place. Additionally, they established a natural resource management scholarship in her name. One relationship shattered everything, stealing Zuzu's dreams, aspirations, and life. For the Verk family, the loss remains a bitter pill to swallow. Her brother Miles misses her deeply. As siblings often do, they had their moments of irritation. But Miles treasures the memories they shared. He recalls the simple moments, like seeing Zuzu at the sink doing dishes before saying goodnight. These memories bring both comfort and sorrow, a reminder of what was lost. The Alpine community rallied around the Verk family, providing unwavering support. The family expressed heartfelt gratitude to everyone who stood by them during such a devastating time. The Verk family firmly believes that without the unwavering support of the community Zuzu cherished and was an integral part of, they might have been consumed by the overwhelming darkness of grief. Zuzu was a dreamer, determined not to let anyone stand in her way. Tragically, one person decided that if he couldn't have her and remain the center of her universe, he wouldn't hesitate to ruin her life completely. When you cling to something too tightly, you risk breaking it, and that loss can send you spiraling out of control. That's exactly what Robert did to Zuzu. He tried to keep her tethered to him, but when she resisted, he made a chilling and devastating choice. It's a sobering reminder to avoid people who stifle your growth or hold you back. Zuzu had grand dreams of adventure and making an impact on the world, while Robert simply wanted her to remain confined, compliant, and under his control. Don't allow anyone to anchor you to a place where your potential is diminished. Zuzu was so close to escaping Robert's grasp and reclaiming her freedom, but heartbreakingly, she didn't make it out in time. Let her story be a lesson, not to let the same happen to you. Thanks for tuning in to another episode. If you'd like to support the channel further, consider becoming a member. Members get early access to new videos, sometimes weeks before public release, and it's one of the best ways to help out. I'm incredibly grateful to all of you who have chosen to join. As always, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to check out another intriguing case I covered, and make sure to subscribe. It's completely free and ensures you stay updated with all my future content.